Mhm. Okay, I think we're good. There. Hello, everybody. Some people, all fans in Dr. Tochi's fan club can now create a unique heartbeat together that represents a community. I didn't know I had a fan club. Hello, your infinite one. Hello, everybody. Hello. Happy Friday to you. Some of you might already be on Saturday, depending on where you are, your neck of the woods. I am so glad, so happy to see you. Hey, Miss Ingrid, how are you? I was trying to adjust, like the background shows on TikTok, the background of my book. Let me see. Let me adjust the TikTok. It shows on my TikTok, but it's not showing the way I want on YouTube. So you're just seeing the tagline above me on YouTube, but you're not seeing the title of the book. So I got to figure that out. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to class. Hi, Donette Nurse. And hi, Honey Bunny Forever. It's been a while, AHV. So welcome to class. Please remember to power tap. And if you're on TikTok, remember to power tap. If you're on YouTube, remember the thumbs up. And that notifies the platform, lets them know that class has started. I've just been ripping and running, running and ripping, ripping and running, running and ripping. It's just been a lot of run. I'm just gonna turn up the fan. I'm always on YouTube. I know you just switch between the two platforms. How are you doing? Hi, Jeff Fanta. Remember to power tap. Whoa. Hold on. What did I just tap here? I tapped on something. Uh-oh. I was trying to do something on YouTube and it's telling me I invited people. I don't know that I invited people. Yes, it's okay. Okay. I'm not sure. I'm not a TikTok person. So hello, hello, hello. Welcome to class, longest of time, indeed. We're continuing from yesterday, the ways that your ancestors can help you. Okay. Yesterday I kind of had to cut it short because I had an appointment, another meeting, and I don't know that that meeting was worth it. I thought it was a one-on-one meeting and it turned out to be a group thing. So I wasn't so wild about that, but it is what it is. We keep it moving. Yesterday we talked about, oh, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Tochi. Uh, I was just talking to my son. I really need help. Of course, we all need help. We all need help. So we'll talk about it today, okay? So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Tochi. I'm also available at tochi.us. I encourage you to go to tochi.us and click on consultations if you want to speak with me about your situation. It's confidential and you will have a booked time with me. When you have booked time with me during a consultation, I'm not picking up the phone to talk to other people or multitasking. You have my full undivided attention. Okay. If you click on courses, when you get to Tochi.us, you will see my courses, online courses that I have available to help you with your spiritual journey and your spiritual lifestyle. And you also see a plethora of books. And these books, you can, once you click on them and get them, you can download them right away and have them right away. Very recently, over the past 3 weeks, I've put out 4 books, 4 original books. One you're seeing behind me, the African Ancestor Connection Primer, how to connect with your ancestors, how you set up your altar, what are ancestors, different types of ancestors, what you need to know about ancestors, and different ways you can get in touch with your ancestors. The African way, not the European way, not the Asian way, but the African way. Okay. And the West African or Yoruba way is not the only way to get in touch with your ancestors. The Voodoo way is not the only way to get in touch with your ancestors. Okay. So that's why I put together this book that you're seeing right behind me here, the African Ancestor Connection Primer. And YouTube folks, I'm going to figure out how to adjust the back because I was fafoodling with the background. I was trying to bring it down so you could see the title. So apologize, you're not seeing the title. You're just seeing the what you call it. You're just seeing the tagline. And the funny thing is that I have it showing in reverse. Um, it's so funny. I was working on this trying to put it up correctly so that when it shows on here, it will show correctly. And then it was showing flipped. So I went and made a flipped version. And the flipped version, okay, see now it's showing correctly behind me. Yeah, so now do you notice now that I've corrected it? Because I went ahead and flipped the image because in the preview it was showing flipped. So I flipped it to show correctly in the preview, and then in the real live it was showing mirrored. So now I have flipped it again in the preview, and do you see that it's showing correctly? Sometimes you got to play with the technology, to get it just right. So hopefully next time I'm going to be able to adjust it so that you can see the title of the book in there. So it's not looking hokey. All right. So also on at Tochi.us or DrTochi.com, it's the same thing. You will see my store where I have a few items there you can use for your rituals and things like that. I do have the protection and favor bracelets. I usually recommend a consultation before you pick these up. There are some people who are fairly confident that they know what they want and they just go ahead and get the protection and favor bracelets. But if you're not sure about what's happening with you, I will suggest you get a consultation first so that I will tell you if it's going to be helpful or useful to you. I am not one of those people who will sell you something just for selling's sake. I will tell you if you need it or you don't need it. Okay? Because I know how it feels like you're going out and buying all this spiritual stuff and metaphysical stuff, and it turns out that it's not going to do anything for you or is not meant for you. So I know how that feels. So that's why if you want to buy something from my site and you get a consultation with me first, I will tell you. We will do a divination and I will tell you if that's what you need to get or if it's not what you need to get. I'm not going to waste your time. If you set up a consultation with me and I'm unable to help you or unable to help you get a solution to your situation, I will tell you. There's no shame in my game. I'm not going to pretend that I can do things for you when I cannot do anything for you. It's just too much trouble, too much. It's just too much. So if I'm unable to, I will tell you up front. I will tell you what I can do for you, help you the most that I can help you. But if it's beyond me or forbidden to me, because there are certain cases that are forbidden to me, I will let you know. Some cases are forbidden to me. And when I say forbidden to me, you may have to go find someone else to help you with it, or there might be certain things that you need to do before you can be helped. There are some people who show up here with certain, I don't want to call it karma because karma is an Eastern philosophy. There are some people who show up here with certain burdens and certain afflictions, and those burdens and afflictions need to be handled before you can move forward. Okay. So if that is your case, I will tell you. And I know sometimes that's not what people want to hear, but I do have to weigh whether I should tell you the truth or I should let you just kind of wander off in the wilderness. And oftentimes I'd rather just tell you and get it over and done with instead of having you run round in circles. Like I've had people who keep coming to me and say, "Well, solve this, solve this. I know you can solve this. You can solve this problem for me." And I tell them honestly, I can't. It's beyond me. I have done as much as I can do. I have gone as far as I can go. And I will tell you because there's no point taking on your case or your situation and then misrepresenting myself as someone who can handle it. I will tell you, if it's, there are some people who, in the course of divination, they will find out that they are the ones who are actually supposed to handle their issue. Remember, I told the story of the young man who was called to spiritual practice, but in his life destiny, he was the one who was meant to make his own offerings and make his own sacrifices. It was, if you did it on his behalf, it would not work. It will backfire. And he kept saying, "Well, I don't know what to do." I said, "No, you will talk to your elders and they will guide you. But the actual doing, the offering and offering, performing the sacrifice, you have to do it yourself. It must be by your own hands. That's in your destiny. That's in your line of things. So me trying to do something for you and instead of you doing it for yourself, it's not going to work for you." And eventually he found out for himself that that was the case. So there are many people who are powerful that way. And I don't have a problem with telling somebody, look, your spiritual power is actually more than mine. So it's not my place to do things for you. I will tell you, if your power is more than mine, if your reserves are more than mine, I will tell you. And the reason why I will tell you is because even if you leave me and disbelieve me and you go to somebody else to do work for you, it will not work out for you. So you might as well understand the reason why it is not working out for you. And you might find out that you're going to pastors and apostles and evangelists and prophets, prophetesses, sheikhs, muftis, imams, alphas, malams, whoever, priests, rabbi, and none of that is working for you. None of that is working for you. And you're like, well, my friends or my relatives went to this prophet and he prayed for them and he did this and kabush kabash, and they started getting solutions. I'm not getting solutions because your spiritual power is more than theirs. It's because your spiritual power is more than theirs. So if you come to me in consultation and I'm seeing that you have a lot more power than I do, That's when I tell you, do it for yourself. Do it for yourself. And most people will argue. And I know why they argue because I used to argue too. Oh no, I'm helpless. I don't know what to do. Help me. You're the only one who can help me. If you don't do this for me, I am screwed. So I used to be like that too. And I would say, I'm screwed. You're the only person who can help me. Wah, wah. And the person, oh, okay, I'm clicking on different things here. Please don't mind me. Um, and the person will be trying to get me off, like, go, just go and do this thing. And I'll be like, no, do it for me. My friends come to me. One has a spiritual practitioner who then told her the same thing to me. Okay, yeah. So good evening. Hello, 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 sweet mommy. Hello, Perpetua. Hello, Mac Borson. Hello, Khadija F. Hello, Mrs. Postles. Hello, 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 hello. Okay. You said you're more powerful than him. Yeah, it does happen. So, this is an area in which your ancestors can be very helpful to you. If you're going from pillar to post, you're going here, there, looking for solutions. You can appeal to your ancestors and say, um, you know what? I talked to Dr. Tochi and she said she can help me. I talked to the powerful hoodoo doctor and he said he couldn't help me. And I talked to this other person, he said he couldn't help me. I talked to this person, she said she couldn't help me. I talked to this person, they said they couldn't help me. Can you show me what I'm supposed to do? You can do that. YouTube folks, remember the thumbs up. Remember the thumbs up. Please give the live stream a thumbs up. That notifies the platform to let people know that class is in session. And for those of you on TikTok, I would appreciate um appreciate what do you call it? Some power taps. Yeah, because that will let the platform know to inform more people that class is in session. Okay. You can ask your ancestors for revelation. There's this mystery going on. I do not understand this mystery. Why is this person telling me this, or why am I having this experience? Blah, 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 blah. And your ancestors sooner or later will let you know. But the one thing I will tell you, do not treat your ancestors like little step-it fetchits, because we are now in an era where we are very casual and many of us are very disrespectful. We are in an era when people are very casual and very disrespectful, and they know nothing about what respect can do for you, what respect can bring for you. And I say to them, if you read your Bible, if you're a Christian, or you read other books that predate Christianity, they have variations in their book that says it is a lot easier to attract flies with honey than it is to attract than with vinegar. If I want you to do something for me, It's a lot easier for me to get you to do something for me if I approach you with sweetness than if I approach you with disrespect. Okay. I saw a video on TikTok, was it yesterday, where a young intern at one of the major banks in Nigeria, I think there was some kind of conference going on, and the chairman of the bank where she was interning was there. And, they gave her the microphone to ask a question, and she said, "Good morning, Tony." And she was saying this to someone who was old enough to be her grandfather. And the man said, "Say what?" And he said, and she repeated herself, "Good morning, Tony." And he checked her right there. He's like, "I'm not into this Western thing you people do. You either address me Mr. Tony, Mr. Illuminu, or Chairman. I'm not into this nonsense y'all do." And she corrected immediately. Told him Mr. Illuminu. Okay. So a lot of us have forgotten or not aware that honey can attract a lot easily and a lot easier than vinegar. And so when we are talking about talking to our ancestors, dealing with our ancestors, some of us think that, oh, it's like talking to the waitress or waiter at a restaurant or to the customer service representative or to the cashier. I can just go there and say, "Hey, yo, yo, hey, yo, hey, yo, 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 hey, yo." And then we become surprised when we don't get the results we want. We're like, "Oh, I talked to my ancestors and they're ignoring me." But you are addressing them in a way that if you were addressed, you would find it offensive. But for some reason, you think it's okay to address your ancestors like that. Hey, yo, hey, my nigga, hey, my biatch. Okay. Okay, so Ingrid says, yes, true, Dr. Tochi. It's interesting to hear folks saying that they actually scold their ancestors and they listen and do what they want. And I wonder how. It's not true, it's false. Don't believe everything you see on the internet. There's no reason to be terrified of your ancestors, just be respectful. The same way that you want someone who needs your help to come step up to you respectfully is the same way that you need to step up to them respectfully if and when you need their help. It's that simple. It's not rocket science. It doesn't call for terror. It doesn't call for horror. It doesn't call for or overwhelm. It doesn't there's no complexity there. If you're not my peer, and you run up to me and say, "Hey, yo, Tochi, yay, hey, yeah, hey, yo," I am very unlikely to listen to you or help you. If you're not my peer or you're not older than me, I am very unlikely to listen to you. Even when I go to institutions where people will say to me, "Hello, Tochi," and this and that, and what, my interaction with them tends to be very formal, very distant, and very cold, especially when they're younger than me. And that's just me. Okay. So, one of the things many of us need to learn is respect. The fact that we can get away with being disrespectful to our parents, disrespectful to our elders, disrespectful to whomever it is we're disrespectful to, doesn't mean that that flies in the spirit world. And just like Ingrid was saying here, you might have people coming out online and say, "Oh yeah, I do this," and they listen to me. I scold them. I talk to them anyhow, which way that I want, and they obey me. Prove it. Why don't you prove it to us? It's just like there was this woman, I think she was Caucasian, or at least she's white, and she was on TikTok claiming that she gave, oh yeah, or soon instructions. Oh yeah, when I started working with Oshun, I give her instructions as to what I want and how I want my day to go and the people I want to be attracted to and the people who should be attracted to me and all the places she needs to. And she's and she was involved in this fight with people on TikTok because people were like, first of all, okay, and she, but again, this is somebody who's online on social media making claims. And you would be surprised at the circumstances of a lot of people who are online making claims. There are some people online making claims who are homeless. But remember what I was talking about the camera lens? We have the camera pointing, like you're looking at me here, and I have my book behind me as a background. You don't know what's behind me. You don't know where I am. You don't know you don't know anything outside of what you're seeing on your screen right now. Even when I take out this background and say for instance I'm on the road, like I'm on the road right now, I'm sitting in my car and you see the back of my car. That's all you see. You don't know what's going on with me. Yeah, you're right, pastry ness illusions. And so you have people there and they will sit in front of the camera like so, and you don't know that they're do- doing a live stream on the side of the street. I've seen people doing live streams at the bus stop. I've seen people doing live streams. They pick a corner of the grocery store and they're sitting at the corner on the floor of a grocery store doing a live stream. And the people in the live stream are carrying on and this and that, and I won't take this and I won't take that. And the person is carrying on with them. I would never tolerate this and tolerate that. And they're sitting on the floor. They're sitting at a bus stop. And they're talking about what they will take and what they won't take and what they'll tolerate and what they won't tolerate while they're sitting on the floor. I've seen people conducting live streams sitting on the curb on the side of the street. And they're carrying on, no, this, and they're cussing out people and they're live streaming, telling them if you don't do so, I do this and do that, I'll cut you off. And and I have this experience and I do this and I do that. And they're literally sitting at the curb of street. So when people come on social media and start making all kinds of claims, or they put on some nice clothes, or put on some nice makeup, or put on some nice hair, or whatever it is that, we do to be on social media, and they're making these claims, I have come to learn that all that glitters is not gold. There are a lot of us who are out here who present something that is far from the actual reality in which we live. But we know how to control the camera. And because we know how to control the camera, we know how to control what people are seeing. Okay? No revolution without evolution says social media has everyone and their mama is a priestess or priest, this or that. I hear so many people talk about Oshun. No one wants to be a Yamaya or Yamoja though. In Ifa, Ifa has, I believe, 401 Orishas. I am yet to see anyone online list the 401 Orishas. Everybody knows about the seven powers. Everybody knows about the top seven Orishas. They talk about Obatala. They talk about Yamaya or Yamoja. They talk about Oshun, Oya, Shango, Ogun, Eshu, Shabono. That's about it. Some might talk about Ajay, but that's it. You're 401. So if you are an IFA expert, I need to see you and hear you discuss 401 of them. Tell us what they do and how they do what they do. There are so many people online, they will put on the outfits and the cowrie shells and they'll, decorate their faces and their skin and wear all these beads and everything and whatnot. And they're online getting views. And that's okay. Because oftentimes the path to true spiritual illumination goes through the forest of illusion. And if you do not go through those forests of illusion, you will not get to the promised land. So sometimes it's useful. Sometimes deception is useful. Because when you have been deceived, then you learn what truth is. Remember, we live in a world of duality. It can't be sunshine and roses all the time. It has to be thorns and pain sometimes. We live in a world of duality. That's how that works. Let me adjust this TikTok thing here. Okay. We live in a world of duality. Okay, TikTok people, sorry. Trying to adjust my thing here. Okay. We live in a world of duality. And I've said it before, when you start on your spiritual journey, just accept, make up your mind and accept that you will experience deception. Just accept it in your mind that that is part of your learning. You will experience deception. You will experience, not, don't, I'm being very precise in what I'm saying. You will experience deception. You will lose money. You will lose money. You will pay people who will not do what they told you they will do. You will pay people who don't know what they're doing. You will pay people who will disappear with your money. You will, it is part of the journey. It's part of the journey. So once you have made up your mind that, okay, on this spiritual journey I'm on now, I'm going to meet some charlatans. I'm going to meet some embezzlers. I'm going to meet some fakes. I'm going to meet some cray crays. I am going to meet all kinds of people. Then you're okay with it. If you run into them, you lose some money, you lose some time. Okay, now I know what to do next time. Okay, you will know what not to do next time. It's not always going to be sweetness and honey and light and flowers and butterflies. You too will make mistakes. You will do things that you thought you were supposed to do, not realizing that these things were things you had no business doing or saying. So be gentle to yourself. And you can always say, regroup and say to your ancestors, okay, today I just fucked up. But tomorrow, I want tomorrow to count. Make it a habit of speaking to your ancestors, especially if you were on good terms with said ancestors. If your mother has passed, your father has passed, and you were on good terms with them, speak to them as if they're sitting right there with you. Mama, look at what is going on with me. Papa, look at what is going on with me. Father, look at what I'm going through. Mother, look at what I'm going through. If you were not on good terms with your mother and your father, you can call on your grandmother and your grandfather, whether you met them or not. The fact that they were dreadful to other people doesn't mean that they'll be dreadful to you. Because remember that when someone becomes an ancestor, they start seeing things from a different perspective. They're no longer seeing things from an earthly perspective. And even the dreadful ancestors start seeing the ways that they failed, and they start trying to make amends. And so sometimes they will come to you in the dream and they will be treating you nicely in the dream, a lot nicer than when they were alive here. Some of them will start treating you a lot nicer. And the reason why they come to the dream and they're treating you nicely is because where they are now, they're seeing things from a perspective that is radically different from the perspective they had while they were on the earth plane. And it's up to you to say, okay, I accept you to be part of my life, or for you to say, I am not ready. It's up to you to say, I am ready or I'm not ready. Thank you for sharing the live, One Mystical Cat. Please take a moment to give a thumbs up or power tap the screen and to share the live. That lets other people know that class is in session. Thank you so much, One Mystical Cat. I tend to forget to say these things. Okay. One of the things I would also recommend is working to be comfortable with your ancestors, especially if you've never worked with ancestors before, you've not communicated with them before. Give yourself some time to start getting comfortable with your ancestors and paying attention to your environment and things that are happening with you and around you. There are many times we miss messages because we're not paying attention. There are many times we miss messages because we're not paying attention. We're so consumed with what we're doing and what we're being and whatever we're hearing or saying that we are not paying attention to the messages and signs and symbols that are being sent our way. We're not paying attention. Many of us don't pay attention. So, Mama, is it okay to say you are not ready? Isn't that going to slow your life in any way? Why should it? If you're dealing with an ancestor that you're not familiar with or that wasn't kind to you when they were on this side, and they're showing up in your dreams and they're being nice to you in the dreams, you can say, I'm not ready. Thank you for the finger heart, Mystical Cat. I appreciate you. Thank you for the gift. You can say you're not ready. And I mean, there are levels to this thing. I'm just trying to simplify this as much as possible, but really there are levels to this thing. When you have a dream and you dream of an ancestor, especially of somebody who wasn't nice to you, how are you sure that it is that ancestor you dreamt of? How are you sure that that ancestor, let's say your mom wasn't nice to you when she was alive, okay? Let's just use that example. She wasn't particularly nice to you, or maybe your dad wasn't particularly nice to you, or your brother, or your aunt, or somebody wasn't particularly nice to you. Now they're an ancestor, they've crossed over to the other side. And then you see them in the dream and they're being nice to you and they're doing all kinds of nice things for you. First of all, how are you sure that what you're seeing in your dream is a true representation? How are you sure that is not a form of spiritual cloaking? Someone else is using their image. How are you sure that it's actually that ancestor or symbology for you to be working with their lineage? Because maybe your mom was beastly to you, but she came from a lineage of spiritual practitioners, powerful spiritual practitioners. So her showing up in your dream now doesn't represent her, but is representing her lineage, her side of the family. How do you know that? Maybe there's something about to happen to you. Maybe there's something you're planning to do that is not in your interest, and you dream of that your mother that you were never on good terms with. How do you know it was her or someone from her lineage trying to warn you? You don't know. So so you can start documenting your dreams and correlating your dreams with what happens to you in real life, and then that way you start decoding your own dreams. Every time I dream of my mother, this happens. Every time I dream of my father, this happens. Every time I dream of my cousin, this happens. Or every time during my waking hours I smell this fragrance and it reminds me of my mother, this happens. Or I smell this fragrance that reminds me of my father, that happens. And you start documenting these things. You're attentive, you get the symbols, you start documenting that, and then you start connecting this to that. Or you go get a divination. Or you go get a dream interpretation. So, yes, I can if I were not on good terms with my mother when she was alive and then she suddenly starts popping up in my dreams, I can when I'm doing my invocations and I do my invocations and part of my invocations to my spirits include making invocations to my ancestors, I would say, "You know what? I saw you in my dream, but I'm not ready. I need to get ready. I need to understand why you're in my dreams, what you're doing in my dreams." I might even say, you know what? I'm not ready. If you have a message for me, just send it through somebody. Because I am still dealing with the trauma that came out of my relationship with you here on earth. So I'm still dealing with that. I haven't healed with that. So okay, thank you for showing up in my dreams, but I'm not ready. Yeah, spiritual respect that. Because remember again, ancestors will never force themselves on you. I said this yesterday, I said this the day before. They will never force themselves on you. You are the one who has to open the door and invite them in. They will never force themselves on you. So let's say, for instance, you're doing your invocations and you're calling on your grandma, your paternal grandma, paternal grandpa, maternal grandma, maternal grandpa. but you're not calling on your parents. I'm assuming that your parents are ancestors, and you have good reason for not calling on them. They're not going to bother you because they know why you are not calling on them. They know why. And if you need time to go to therapy and heal from the trauma, or you need time, you know, to get yourself together before you can say, okay, I want to explore this and understand why they're showing up in my dreams, they understand that. Okay. They understand that. One of the things that we have missed a lot in our modern lives is initiations. One of the things we have missed a lot in our current lives is initiations. And back in the day, when cultures and communities were different, people got initiated into elderhood. They got initiated into becoming elders. And I offer that initiation. I have initiated, some people, and they're spiritual elders. Okay. One of the main purposes of elderhood initiation is to prepare the person to become an ancestor. Initiation is like a school. Okay. Imagine that you are a Christian and you got baptized. And let me reference Orthodox Christianity, not the Pentecostal stuff that's going on or the evangelistic stuff that's going on. Let's say you were born into a Catholic family and they baptize you as an infant. And then when you got to 10, 11, 12, you went through confirmation. You had to go for confirmation classes. You had to pass the confirmation test. And then you go through the confirmation, ritual in the church. You have the pretty outfit. You repeat the vows, with other kids and things like that. When you are going through confirmation classes, there are certain things they teach you. They teach you about the Christian religion. Okay. They can, they teach you what it means to be a Christian according to their doctrines. Okay. And they teach you what the right answers are. They teach you about morality. They teach you about conduct. They teach you about a whole bunch of things. And then you go through the public ritual ceremony where they say, okay, now you're confirmed and now you're eligible to receive Holy Communion. Initiation is like that. In these Orthodox churches, again, before you get married, you go for marriage counseling and you go talk with the priest or the reverend or minister, and they will say, okay, let's discuss you should expect in marriage and the kind of problems you will face in marriage and how to deal with them according to our belief system, how you should deal with these problems that will inevitably arise in your marriage. And so you go for marriage counseling, and there's several. You just don't go for one, but you go for several because this is an opportunity for the church you go to, whether it's a Catholic church or a Protestant church, for them to teach you how to be a married person. And when you successfully go through all the counseling sessions, then you can go through that ritual of marriage, the public ritual of marriage in front of everybody. In indigenous systems, men and women had to be initiated and taught how to be adults. Malidoma Some discussed this in his books of the water and of spirit, and his other books, how they did it in his ethnic group, okay, the Dagara. And these weren't short affairs. When you look at a whole bunch of other African traditions, and I started, I know I kind of didn't finish that because there was just so much on my plate. A couple of months ago, some of you may have noticed some short clips I was putting out about marriage rituals. And I did a couple of those. Okay. If you're doing this marriage, it's traditional, blah 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 way, and you do this and do this and do, here's the covenant part of it, and here's a spiritual part of it, and here's a part. Okay. Before you get to that part, in the olden days, I know we're in the 21st century, so I'm talking about in the 20th century, the 19th century, and the 18th century, and the centuries before that. People were trained on how to be married. You weren't expected to just wake up and know how to be married the way we do today. Today, we believe that what qualifies you for marriage is the date on your birth certificate. Okay, once you're 18, you're ready to get married. In some places, once you're 16, you're ready to be married. Once you have functioning organs, you know what I mean, reproductive organs, you're good to be married. That's the world we live in today. And so you have young people acting married and making mistakes. And some of those mistakes are very serious, irreparable mistakes. Okay. But the correct way of doing things, and there are many African societies that still do this. If you remember my video I put out on where are the women in West African traditions and where are the women in the Southern African traditions, you have the Chisungu women's initiation. You have the Sunday Society of the Mende in West Africa, to name a few, where they teach young girls how to be married. You're going to get married, and here's what to expect. Starting from your wedding night, here's what to expect. And not only here's what to expect, here's how to handle it. And not only this is how to handle it, but here's how to turn things in your favor. Realizing that we're living in a patriarchal society. So here's how to play the chess game. Here's how to play the chess game. When others are playing checkers, you will be playing chess. Here's how to do it. There's another group in Ghana. Um, their name just escapes me now. Um, is it Ghana or Togo? Togo, that do the same thing. And people are like, "Oh, it's demonic, it's this, that." And the girls go down to the river and get a sacred spiritual bath, and they spend time with these elder women who teach them all kinds of things, pamper them, teach them groom them, teach them how to be married. Now, many of these systems still cater to patriarchal structures, but at the very least, they tell you how to play the game. For those of you who are in class right now, let's do a quick poll. I am not asking you for any personal details. Again, I am not asking you for any personal details. Hear me on this because I know that people are still going to end up doing what they want to do. I am not asking you to put any personal details in the comment section. I repeat, do not put your personal details in the comment section. Do not put your personal information in the comment section. Why is she repeating herself? Because some of us here are hard of hearing, and some of us here are hearing what we want to hear. So I have learned from experience that I oftentimes have to repeat myself. We had an example of it yesterday or day before. Put why in the comment section if you've ever done a money ritual, and people have started writing more than that. Oh yeah, I did that. I tried it. It didn't work out for me. Blah 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 blah. Nobody asked you that. One mystical cat is saying Dr. Tochi loud for those in the way back. No, I'm saying it because you're going to see what's going to happen in the comment section. That's why I'm repeating myself now. And you're still going to have people who will do what they want to do. And then they start wondering why they're getting the kind of results that they get. Like the person who said to me, oh, I know you're teaching about a lemon ritual. I don't have lemons, but I have a whole bunch of apples because I have an apple tree. Can I use an apple instead of a lemon? She was in the comment section. And she kept on posting that question, and I ignored her. And then she did a super chat and put out money. And I said, okay, putting out money doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to co-sign your foolishness. We're here talking about a lemon cleanse, cleaning yourself with lemons. And you want me to tell you that it's okay to use apples instead of instead of lemons. I will not. And then she got offended. She got offended. And I said to her, if the recipe calls for salt, are you going to say, well, I don't have salt. Sugar looks like salt, so I'm just going to substitute sugar for salt? Are you going to go to the person who wrote that recipe and say, I just want to know, or call them up on the phone. I have your recipe here, but I don't have any salt at home. Can I substitute sugar for salt in this recipe? Is that what you're going to do? She got offended. So that's why when I say what I say, I repeat it because you're going to have some people saying, "Oh, I wasn't paying attention. I was mowing the lawn when you were speaking." Or no, I was answering the phone when you were speaking. Or no, I had to go check my oven when you were speaking. I didn't hear you. Lemons are not apples, you're right. But people will do that because they want you to co-sign their foolishness. And then they get upset when you refuse to co-sign the foolishness, and then they'll go there and say, "Oh, Dr. Tochi is a horrible person. She's a terrible person. She's a bully. She's a nightmare. She's a ninja. She's a this. She's a that." Just because I refuse to co-sign their foolishness. So that's why I'm repeating myself. Put yes in the comment section if you got an initiation or you got a training before you got married. Put a yes in the comments section. I'm being very precise. Put a yes Only a yes in the comments section. Only a yes, Y-E-S in English. If you got training on how to be married before you got married, or let me even broaden the net here. Whether you're married or not, have you ever received training on how to be married? If you have, put yes in the comment section. Let us see how many people got this training. Okay. TikTok put an AI summary discussing traditional African marriage rituals. Comment yes if you have one. Okay. If you have ever received training or initiation for marriage, I don't care if it was in the church or it was in your culture, in your spiritual tradition, you received formal training, not somebody chatting with you in the bedroom or chatting with you on WhatsApp over the phone. No, formal training. Okay. So do y'all see EHV? Have you seen how you've used yourself as an example of what I was just talking about? EHV put in the comments section, only after my first divorce and next steady relationship gone bad, I seemed training. Okay, I don't know what happened with my TikTok. My TikTok live just vanished. Resume. Okay. My TikTok live just resumed. Okay. So do y'all see what just happened now? Do y'all see? Okay, camera stick, what's going on? No, TikTok just stopped and then it says your live was paused. I don't know what was paused. Maybe the AI was moderating the live, trying to see that I didn't break any rules or something. So do y'all see what just happened right now? EHV 8070 wrote, after everything I just said now, here's what EHV 8070 wrote in the comments section. Only after my first divorce and next steady relationship gone bad, I I seemed training or did seek training. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is this what I asked for? What were my instructions? What were my instructions? Yes, where she wrote it. It's just right here on YouTube. I'm reading it here on YouTube. What were my instructions? Thank you, Ingrid. One mystical cat to say yes only. Pastry nest. Simple yes or I. What did I say people should not do? This is happening in real time. Miss Kiona says put a yes only if it applies. Okay. EHV says, well, later on, you added, have we ever received? Okay. One mystical cat says, no personal info. Thank you, one mystical cat. Pastry Nest says, we know her business now. One mystical cat, you are 100% correct. I said, no personal info. Before I posed the question, I said, here are the instructions. Listen very carefully. I kept repeating myself. Listen very carefully. Listen carefully. Listen carefully. And so EHV is justifying by saying, well, later on, you added, have we ever received? Was that the instructions? I want us to use this as, anyway, for those who have, okay, Mrs. Postal says no personal info. So anyway, my question still stands. Put yes, YES, only yes, in the comment section if you have ever received training, marital training. Nothing informal, not someone y'all chatting, just having a chatting over coffee or, WhatsApp, your mom talking to you on WhatsApp or, no, you got formal training on how to be married. But yes, in the comment section, EHV, you may still stay in class. You just you just provided an example of disobedience and lack of attention. So I want you to learn from this mistake because many of us are not 100. Remember, I made jokes and I said someone's going to say, "Oh, I didn't hear what you said. I had to go to the oven," or someone was knocking at the door. I had to mow the lawn, or I was doing this. I didn't quite hear everything that you're saying. I want you to learn from this, EHV 8070. I've repeated it from all these years I've been on the internet. I keep on saying, do not put your personal information on the internet. I said it yesterday, I said it today. I've always said it. Professional training by a teacher or coach. Maybe you have to say that. Why do I have to say that? Some people got professional training from priests. If you went through traditional initiation process where they teachers or coaches, they weren't teachers in the formal sense of it or coaches, you went through how your tradition prepared you to be married. Okay. And in many African traditions, they train both the men and the women. They teach them how to be married. So that's all I'm trying to understand here. Out of everybody in the class, just say yes if you got formal training. Okay, look at Absolute did exactly the same thing. Look at what she wrote. Had informal training from my older relatives on how to be married. Yes. Is that what I asked for? So do you see, as human beings, we will do what we want to do? I've spent 10 minutes or more saying, here are the instructions, just do this. Do you see that as human beings, we will do what we want to do? You see, we will do what we want to do. And years ago, I would take it personally. I'll be like, why isn't this person complying? Why isn't this person following the rules? Why isn't this person working on their own behalf to make sure that this thing we're in is working on their behalf? Now, I don't care. If I tell you that this is the way it needs to be done and you choose to do it your way, it's on you. I am not going to lose sleep over it. I'm not. Because you can never explain people. The way I think is different from the way you think, the way the other different from the way the other person thinks. And something that is clear to you may not be clear to the next person, no matter how many times you repeat yourself. So I'm not going to lose sleep over it. If the recipe calls for salt and you keep insisting that you want to put sugar in it, have it your way. Just like Burger King, do it your way and take the consequences. This is one of the reasons. You're right, pastriness. Listening and understanding is two different things. You're right. And this is the reason why a lot of religious leaders are just fucking with our minds. This is the reason why a lot of them are messing with our minds. Because you can have a religious leader or even a spiritual leader come out and say, I am responsible for destroying you. And many people, 90% of the people sitting there will not understand, not even hear it. And if you ask the people there, what did your leader just say? They will start translating it into language that is palatable to them. Oh, he said, um, he will challenge your thinking about life. And then you come back to the person and said, no, he literally said, I am responsible for destroying your life. And the person will say, yeah, I know that that's what he said, but what he really meant was. And so we start coloring something that was said clearly and plainly. The person can there are so many pastors today that come out. Like there was one I saw the other day, or was it today on TikTok? Now I don't know if it was real or not because there's a lot of doctored stuff on TikTok. And this guy was saying any woman who chooses not to get married, not to have children, when she gets old and she is childless and she never got married and she starts suffering financially, should be allowed to starve. Praise the Lord. She should starve. Let her starve because she was not obedient. Do you know that there were people in that church shouting, Hallelujah, Hallelujah, pray Jesus is Lord, Hallelujah. And some of the people in that church who were shouting hallelujah are single with no kids. And they're women. They're women. The man just said in plain English, if any woman should refuse to get married, refuse to have children, and she gets old and she, for whatever reason, is struggling as she gets older, she's 65 and older, and she's struggling, especially financially. There's no support system for her. She should starve. And the women in that church shouted, Hallelujah, praise the Lord. Thank you, Jesus. So I want to know, did they hear what he said? Did they listen to what he said? Did they understand what he said? So so it illustrates that all of us may be listening to the same thing, but it doesn't mean that all of us are hearing the same thing. All of us may be listening to the same thing, but it doesn't mean that we're hearing the same thing. We may be listening to the same thing, but it doesn't mean that we're understanding the same thing. So that's why I no longer let it bother me. All I have to do is just put out the warning. Stop putting your personal information on the internet. It's up to you. It's up to you. It's up to you. And that's why a lot of these evangelical, Pentecostal, fanatical, or different kinds of religious people and leaders, that's that's why they are messing with people's minds, and people are like, oh, it has to be voodoo, it has to be some kind of spiritual work, it has to be some no, there's a lot of times there's no spiritual work or voodoo or hoodoo involved, because the pastor says one thing and people are hearing something else, and they're understanding something else. And this is the reason why a pastor will say, oh, if you want to get pregnant and have your own child, when you come to church next Sunday, make sure you don't have your undies on, because we're going to send the Holy Spirit to enter your womb. And then you're going to have a whole bunch of women who show up in church without undies. And then he will say, okay, all the women without undies, spread your legs wide. And all of them will spread their legs wide. And then he'll be there with uh with a microphone, and he will say, "Whoosh," and all of them go, "Ah," and he's like, "Woof, woof, woof, receive the spirit." Woof. All of them go, "Ah," all the women without undies. And then you're sitting there and you're asking yourself, wait a minute, do you mean to tell me that there are grown women without undies sitting here doing this? And the women will say, yes, it's a movement of the Holy Spirit, that the Holy Spirit moves mysteriously, and that the ways of man are carnal, but that the ways of God are spiritual, and the carnal man can never understand the spiritual. Anyways, back to our regular programming. Back to our regular programming. So I saw here that on YouTube, no one said yes to that question, that they got formal training. Ingrid says, "Mama Tochi, the queen of sarcasm." You know I'm the queen of sarcasm. You know that's right. So on YouTube, nobody, at least out of the few people, handful of people watching, or more than handful of people watching, um, received formal training on how to be married. And on TikTok, let's see here. I want to say, did anybody on TikTok say yes that they got training? I don't think so. So so why am I highlighting this? It is a lot easier, okay, is a lot harder to succeed at something if no one has shown you how to do it. Okay, yeah, yes, pastriness, thank you. It's not impossible, but it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder. Okay. So let's just think about this. So we're going to get married. We found somebody, and we have said to ourselves, I'm in love with this person. And somebody says, well, how do you know you're in love with this person? And you said, I'm in love with this person because every time I see this person or think about this person, I feel a tingle in my loins. And many of us believe that that is a sign of love. If every time I see this person or think about them, I start feeling in my nether regions, then that must be love. That's what a lot of us were taught. Okay. Whenever I see this person or think about this person, I start feeling warm. And, I want to lay hands on them and they want to lay hands on me. We want to lay hands on each other. So that must be a sign of love. That's how many of us were taught to interpret love. Okay. And so we don't see love in service. Many of us don't see it that way. The person who's waiting outside until it's dark or waiting long hours for us to accompany us so that we're not harmed, we don't see that as love. But if we go into the other room and there's some action in the other room and the action in the other room is hot, then we say, oh, yeah, that's a passionate love. That's how we have been trained to determine love. And so, we read romantic books and we see all these movies. And that's why many of these romantic movies, there's very few romantic movies that do not involve going to bed. Very few. You have an action movie, some people, a sci-fi movie, aliens are coming to duke it out with people on Earth, trying to take over Earth. There's somebody in that movie who is in bed with someone else. It's not a complete movie until somebody's kissing somebody. Somebody is laying hands. And the blouse goes one way and the trousers go the other way. The movies have to have that. There has to be laying on of hands. So we interpret that to mean love. But in traditional African societies, especially those with strong spiritual foundations, they weren't taught that that was love. You were taught that love meant provision, provision of protection, provision of food, provision of shelter, provision of clothing, provision of status, provision of place, provision of stability. That was love. Okay. And so people would have to go through training, weeks of training or months of training, and they will be taught by people who were already married. So the girls would be taught by women who are already married. They will say, this is what marriage truly looks like. And so the girls going into marriage, their eyes will be wide open like this. In marriage, this is what is going to happen to you when you get married. And the girl's ears will be open like this. And the boys, when they were getting trained by the older married men, they will say, this is what you will see in marriage. And their eyes will be wide open. Their ears will be wide open. Oftentimes, their mouths will be wide open because oftentimes they were virgins, both men and women, the boys and the girls. And the women will take the time to tell them, here's what's going to hurt. Here's what's going to baffle you. Here's what's going to confuse you. Here's what's going to annoy you. Here's what's going to mystify you, confuse you in marriage. And the girls will be listening and they will ask questions. Oh, so when my fiance, my betrothed, when he tells me I love you, I will carry you, and I will treat you like a golden egg, and I will never let you drop. They will say, you will drop after your wedding night. You're going to drop. And not only will you drop, you will crack. Here's what you're going to see when you get married. And we want you to be prepared. You will have to know how to cook, to clean, to wash, to bear children, to raise the children. And remember, they will teach them according to their culture. They will teach them according to their spiritual traditions. Here is what you will see in marriage. And should your husband pass while he's young, here's what you're going to see and experience at the hands of his family. This is what they'll do to you if their son passes away quickly, young, or unexpectedly. And all the young women, their eyes are like this. And some of them will say that's true because I saw these things you're talking about happening to my mother. And they will say, yes, this is, even though you used to criticize your mother and say, tell your mother, if I wear your shoes, I would do it this way. I would do it this way. If I wear your shoes, I would do it this way. I wouldn't do it this way. And you would side your father and you would side your brothers against your mother. You are going to get married, and this is what you're going to see. And many of the young girls will be like, and when you go to marry into that family, do not think that the women in that family are going to be on your side. You'll be very lucky if they're on your side. Because as far as they're concerned, you are an outsider. And they will treat you like an outsider until you produce a male child. I'm talking for patriarchal systems. For matriarchal systems, of course, there's a difference. But we may sit here and say, oh my God, how terrible, how horrible, how this, how that. But wouldn't you rather go into marriage aware of what to expect than to go into marriage ignorant? And all you're focusing on is your wedding dress and how you're going to look and the flowers and the decorations and the people who will come and the gifts you're going to get and the blase, 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 blase. And when all of that is done and all the guests are gone, then your husband and the family will say, now let's give you the real welcome. And then you be there going, what the hell? What the hell? I wasn't expecting this. And they will say to you, well, now you better expect it. So the reason why I'm using marriage as an example is that now we hardly have any culture, any institution that teaches us how to become ancestors. So we don't know how to address to address ancestors. We don't know how to talk to ancestors. We don't know how to venerate ancestors. We don't know how to make offerings to ancestors. We don't even know what ancestors are. We leave our ancestors and we're going and dealing with other folks' ancestors. We ignore our ancestors and then we wonder why things are not going well for us. Imagine going to get married. Nobody told you about marriage. Nobody explained it to you. Nobody gave you a cheat sheet. Nobody gave you a marriage manual. No one told you if this happens, do this. If that happens, do that. If that doesn't happen, do this. No one gave you any information about marriage. And you jumped into the marriage and you were just there drinking water, swallowing water. And you're go, oh my God, marriage is the most horrible thing. I wish I had never gotten married. It is so terrible. This is not the man I fell in love with, or this is not the woman I fell in love with. I cannot believe I married this kind of person. I can't believe this is what I'm seeing. I can't believe that that is what I'm seeing. And you have no idea how to solve marital problems because nobody trained you and nobody told you. The only thing you heard was the priest telling you, if you're a woman, be submissive to your husband and everything will go well in the marriage. Do we know women who are submissive in their marriages and yet their marriages are not going well? Women who have signed over their property, their money, their wealth to the men, yet there's no peace. Women who have not gone to school and yet there's no peace. They gave up their dreams. There's still no peace. And they go back to the pastor and said, Pastor, but you told me if I'm submissive and I give him everything, there will be peace in my marriage. And the pastor says, submit more. You're not sufficiently submissive. You are still, you are still headstrong. You still have rebelliousness. There's some rebelliousness in your spirit. Weed out the last of your rebelliousness. And you have given everything. And the pastor is there in the pastor's office in the church telling you, no, you have not given it your all. Do you know how many nurses are either quietly or openly resentful of the fact that they could have been medical doctors if not for marriage? Do you know how many nurses, older nurses, younger nurses, are very resentful today? And when you get to know them, they will tell you, I could have been a medical doctor if not that I got married, if not for my husband, if not for my children, I could have been a medical doctor. Do you know how many women will say today will say to you, I could have been a business owner. I could have been this. I could have been a bank manager. I could have been this, but I had to give that all up because I got married. And they're angry, but they don't know who to tell. And there's some other woman who will say, I had to leave my marriage in order to actualize my life destiny. If I had not left my marriage, I would not have been the doctor, the engineer, the business owner, the CEO, the this, the that. I had to leave my marriage in order to self actualize. So you see, that was one of the functions of initiation, to let people know this is what to expect if you move in this direction. If you achieve this next level, here is what to expect, and here is how to handle it. On YouTube, remember to give the thumbs up on YouTube so that other people will know that we're in session. Sorry, TikTok, my phone just decided to swivel itself. It decided to be like Willow Smith. Gonna whip my hair around. Gonna whip myself around. Thank you for liking the live. Thank you, Patroness. Thank you, Starburst. Burst. So that's the function of initiation, to give you a preview. So now that's why we have elder initiation, because when you get an elder initiation from folks who know what they're doing, they will tell you, okay, this is how you will start preparing to become an ancestor. Here's the role you will be playing in society. Here is how to mediate between the people and the ancestors. You are now the mediator. You are now the intercessor. You are now the person who stands in the gap. You are the one who is spiritually authorized to speak to the ancestors on behalf of the people who are younger than you. And this is how you do it. And then they teach you in the process of initiation, they teach you how to do it. And so people come to you and they say, oh, I had a dream about my ancestor, and you will know what to tell them. Oh, I'm having problems with this and this and that. And you do a divination and you say, okay, it looks like you need to work with this ancestor, or you need to work with that ancestor. And this is how you're going to do it. If there's something going on the community, it's the elder that will now come out and speak to the ancestors on behalf of the community. But a lot of us don't have that. So that's why we have books like this. That's why we have books like this. Because families and cultures have become so fragmented. Who is going to teach us these things? One of the things that made me start putting together the spiritual practice intensive for my older students was this kind of problem. How do I go about doing this? It's one thing to read books, it's one thing to watch videos, it's one thing to listen to people talk about it. But sometimes you want someone to take you by the hand and say, okay, put your right foot here, put your left foot here, put your left foot here, put your right foot here, turn around this way, turn around that way. Okay, sit down here, stand up here, face this direction, turn your back to that direction. Because that is what initiation accomplished. You had somebody who was standing there, and they say hold this, and you're holding this, and the person says to you, you are holding this incorrectly, that's not the way to hold it. And you're like, oh, okay. And the person says, no, hold it like this. And then you can turn around and say to the person, okay, I figure I'm supposed to hold it like this and not like this. Why should I hold it like this and not like this? And the person explains it to you in real time. That's training. That is training. Ingrid, is there already the Southern African book, or is it still coming? No, the Southern African book is the next one, my dear. So hopefully I'll put it out within the next week or so. The Southern African one is this African Ancestor Connection Primer has information for Southern Africa. It does have information for Southern Africa. But what I think you mean is the African Divination book. That's the one that has volume 1, volume 2, volume 3, and volume 4 is for Southern Africa. That's about divination. And in the divination books, I'm talking about the different ways people do divinations. And so, if you're from Southern Africa, it behooves you to know the different ways that people in Southern Africa from different ethnic groups do divinations. Because if someone is telling you, "Oh, I'm a Sangoma, I'm an Isangoma," and then you say, "Okay, you're a Sangoma. Yes, I'm a Sangoma." And you say, "Can you do a divination?" And the person says, "Yes." Are you duly initiated in Sangoma? Yes, I'm a duly initiated in Sangoma. And you do a divination and the person says yes, and then they crack open tarot cards. You have to understand that there's a problem. But if you're not aware of your culture, you would not know that there is a problem. I remember the story a woman told me many years ago. They went for a retreat in Ohio, and she said there was a young man there who kept following her around at the retreat saying, "I'm a Babalawo. I'm initiated into Ifa. I'm a Babalawo." He was African American, she was African American, and he kept saying to her, "I'm a duly initiated Babalawo. Let me do your divination. 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 I can help you." Mind you, they are at someone else's retreat in Ohio, where all of them are there to learn something. And he said, he kept following her around. "I want to do your divination. I want to do your divination. I believe I have a message for you from the ancestors." So she said she finally broke down and said, "Okay, do the divination." And I don't remember if she paid him or not. And she said he brought a pack of playing cards. They weren't even tarot cards. Playing cards. You know the cards? I'm not a card person, okay? So, but do you know the cards? I mean, the playing cards, cards used for gambling. That's what the young man brought out and started using that to do a divination for her. He said he was an initiated priest, Babalawo priest. And he didn't even have the common decency to get African American or black inspired oracle cards or tarot cards. There are some really beautiful tarot cards and oracle cards now that are black inspired. He didn't even get any of those. He got playing cards. And when she came to me, she said, "I want to know, is that demonic?" I don't feel right after he did all that. I didn't feel right. Yeah, Ace Diamonds gambling card. Yeah, that's what he used. That's what they use in jail. Okay. So that's what they use in jail to do divinations. And she came away from that and she was bothered by it. She was very bothered by it. And she booked a consultation with me. And she said, "Please, Dr. Tochi, don't do a divination for me because I think all of that is weird and demonic and stuff." And so I said, "So what can I do for you?" She says, "I just want to talk about it." And I said to her, "Well, if he was a truly initiated Babalawo of the Ifa tradition, he should not be cracking open no kind of cards to do no kind of divinations." You know what they say? They always say gifts are not the same to justify themselves. He had no gift. That's no gift. Because if he was a truly initiated Ifa Babalawo, he would not be using playing cards to do a divination. That's not what is used in Ifa. So if you pick up Volume 1, North Africa. Volume 2, East Africa. It will become clear to you how they get information. For example, through Tsar spirit possession and how they call the Tsar spirits. And I taught a little bit about that in my advanced class on Patreon. And the Tsar spirits are called and propitiated in a certain way. Tsar spirits are operational in North Africa and East Africa, and they're called upon in a specific way. And I mentioned that in the books. So they're not there throwing carrot shells. And you go to Central Africa, and I talked about it the other time when you look at Central Africa Volume 3, they use poison for divinations. They're using water for divinations. They're using mirrors for divinations. And many people don't know this. Okay. So I'm deliberately doing Volume 5 West Africa last because we're so saturated here in the Americas with voodoo and Ifa and their derivatives. So I want to take my time when I'm doing the West African, putting out the West African volume. I want people to see the diversity and the complexity of divination systems available in West Africa. And these are documented by sociologists and anthropologists. So it's not just going to random websites and people on random websites saying this is how it's done. We're talking about systems that have been documented in the early 1900s, some of them documented in the middle 1900s, and so on and so forth. They had people from different, especially Europeans, going there, sitting down, learning the language, interviewing these spiritual practitioners and saying to them, what are you doing? Why are you doing what you're doing? And how do you know that this is the truth? Central Africa, when I was researching Central Africa Volume 3, that was as fascinating as all get out. They have divination by dreams. They go sleep by the fire. They have divination with boiling water. When you're trying to find out some information using boiling water. And that's why the volume 3 is a lot longer, it's 120 pages. But it's a easy 120 pages because I have pictures and stuff like that. And I think I'm still going to go back and revise North Africa and East Africa to look like Central Africa because I put a lot more pictures in Central Africa so that when we're talking, there's divination using a walking cane. Central Africa has so much stuff is like mind-boggling. They have divinations with hallucinogenics, ibonga. They have divinations with ancestor bones. They use ancestor bones for divination. Some ethnic groups out in Central Africa. And in some cases, they will take little chips of them or little chips of the statues they've made or barks of wood and ingest that to help them hear from the ancestors. Some of their divination systems require either the ancestor spirit or some other spirit to possess them or to mount them. So why am I listening to somebody who's trying to do my divination with a pack of playing cards? Why am I listening to that? Why do I have to listen to that? I don't have to listen to that. Because what I'm learning from all this research is that I can even start categorizing types of divination. So there's specific divinations I can do for ancestors, specific divinations I can do for water spirits and earth spirits and so on. There's if you really wanted to get down into it and say, you know what, I'm going to be a divination expert. I have no business with playing cards. Now, personally, I like using tarot cards and oracle cards, and I do have them with me most of the time because you can look at the symbol and then allow your intuition to start working with the symbol because most of us are westernized. So we're used to that. But trust me, the insights that come from a cowrie shell divination, I do cowrie shell divination. Some of you have done divinations with me. I do cowrie shell divinations, and you cannot look at a throw of cowrie shells there. And if you don't know what you're doing, be coherent. You will have to let your divinatory spirit speak to you through those shells or speak to you beyond those shells. What's your thought on runes? I also do runes. But runes are like tarot cards because they already have pre-assigned meanings. But when you're using cowrie shells, or you're using the opele, or you're using ikin, which are the palm nut seeds, there are no pre-assigned meanings. Outside of open and close, there are no assigned meanings. So if you have a random pattern of cowrie shells on your tray, you can't look at that and say, oh, this means the tower, because there's no pre-assigned meaning. Tarot cards, oracle cards, rune stones, they have pre-assigned meanings. And sometimes if I want to do a real easy divination and show the other person on the other side of me, I say, okay, let's see what the runes say, or let's see what the cards say, and then let the person also be involved in that divination process. But if I'm doing a real deep divination about a spiritual issue, I am not using oracle cards. I'm not using tarot cards. I'm not using runes. I will use cowrie shells and I will use other things that I have. I have multiple systems. I have shakers. You rattle them, shake them, and then get the divination. And these are not yes or no systems because, like amongst the Igbos and the Igala, they have the mat. And you might have seen some people on TikTok using it. They have this mat. It's a two mat system, and they hold it with one hand. And when it opens, it means yes, and when it closes, it means no. But then that can be manipulated. So if I want to tell you yes, there's a certain way I will hold it and it will say yes. And if I want to say no, there's a certain way I will hold it and it will say no. But that same mat, if you go to Mexico and to Cuba, they use that mat, that divination mat, for cleansing. Very effective cleansing. But if you go now amongst the Igbos and the Igalas, they don't use it for cleansing. They just use it for yes or no divinations. So if you don't know which is what, you might go somewhere, and if the person's like, this person looks like an easy mark, I'm just gonna tell them what I need to tell them and make them cough up some more money. And you say, oh, I'm coming to you, and I want to know my mother-in-law. I think she's a witch. She always attacks me and this and that. They'll manipulate it, they'll open it and say, yes, you're right. And then you say, I knew it, I knew it, I knew it. And they say, okay. So we will do a ritual to neutralize her. Give us $10,000 and we'll do a ritual to neutralize her. And you don't even realize that you didn't even pose your question correctly. You posed what we call a leading question. You posed a leading question. And that's why some of you who've come to me in divination, remember I say to you, do not tell me the story. Do not tell me the story of your problem. Just go straight to the question. Do not tell me the story. Don't give me, oh, well, let me give you a little bit of background and context so you understand. I don't need to understand because I am not the one who is telling you what the problem is. Spirit is. So I don't need to understand. I don't need to know the context. I don't need to know the background. I don't need to know the details. What I need is the question that you have so that I can pose the question and get the answer. I don't need to know the back because people sometimes will get upset with me. Oh, she's cutting me off. She doesn't let me tell the story of I don't need to know the story because when you tell me what the problem is and you tell me what you think the problem is and you give me your self-diagnosis and you give me your analysis of the problem, I am a human being just like you. You have just biased my mind. So even if the spirit is saying to me, it is this, my human mind is saying, but it might be that. And you have no confidence that I am telling you what I heard from spirit as opposed to what I think the problem is. So I don't want to tell you what I think the problem is. What I want to tell you is what I have heard or I'm seeing spirit is saying the problem is. That's why I say, do not tell me what the problem is. Just ask your question. And then people will get in a tizzy about that. Oh, when I went to this psychic, I told them it was my mother-in-law and they said I was right. You're the fourth person I have come to. The other four people I went to all agreed that it was my mother-in-law. They all agreed that my husband was a demon. They all agreed that my boss was a serpent. They all agreed. And usually I say to the person, so why are you here? Why are you here? If you went to four people and the four people told you the same thing, why are you here? Why are you talking to me? And the reason why you're talking to me is because you know in your heart of hearts that what they told you is not true. Because if you believe that what they told you was true, you would not be coming to me number five. You already have four people you went to, and they told you that what you said was true, that your analysis was true, your diagnosis is true. So why are you coming to me? Why are you coming to me? Is because you are still not comfortable with the people who have agreed with you. You're still not comfortable with it because you know it's not true. So if you want me to co-sign what the other four people told you, I am not going to co-sign it, and you can't make me to co-sign it. I will not co-sign. No, no, ma'am, no, sir. I will not co-sign. Oh, I've been called to spiritual practice. I went to six other people. They told me I've been called to spiritual practice. So why are you here? Oh, I want you to confirm that I can go to church and be a prophetess and that will satisfy the requirement to be a spiritual practitioner. And I say, no, it won't. Oh, but I feel comfortable in the church. Whenever I do something traditional or indigenous spiritual things, I have nightmares. I feel like demons are attacking me. I feel this and that. I feel so uncomfortable. I can't sleep at night. Anytime I do all these things, I tried getting initiated into Ifa and I had nightmares and headaches. And I tried doing this and I went to voodoo and da 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 da. The only place I feel peace and comfort is in church. So go to church. Why are you here? Why do you need me to tell you that you should be a prophetess in church? You're just telling me that you feel more comfortable in church. So why are we having this conversation? Well, I need you to check and see and confirm that I can be a spiritual practitioner in church. Okay. I threw the cowrie shells and they said no. It's a firm no. Well, but I don't like these other systems. I can't help you there, my darling. I can only tell you what I see. You're not being helpful. I know, to your cause. But if you want to go to church, go to church. If you go to church and you feel so comfortable in church and you feel so welcomed in church, why are you going through all these divinations? You should be okay with church. If you're saying that church is where you need to be, church is where you'll feel comfortable, church is where you feel accepted, church is where you have peace of mind, why are you spending time and money doing all these divinations? Well, the people at church, some of the people at church are opposing me. So you want to go over the church and become their dictator? You want to take over and become the oppressor in the church? Do you not see that you have another problem? Do you not see that you're having another problem? Because you say you prefer church, you want to be in church, you feel comfortable in church, you have peace of mind in church, but the people in church are not obeying you. The people in church are not doing what you want. The people in church are not. You tell them what to do and they disregard it. The people in church do not agree with you. The people in church want to do their thing and you want to do your thing. And you're telling me that you speak the truth. And the people in the church are not accepting the truth that you're speaking to them in the church. So, what do you want me to do? You want me to tell you that you can fulfill your spiritual call, spiritual practice call in the church. So what are you going to do? Are you going to go to the church and say, well, Dr. Tochi told me to tell you all that I have been called to be the prophetess in this church? That's what I'm here to tell you. Dr. Tochi, please, please, these children will not kill me. These children will not kill me. Do you want to take my name to your church and tell them that Dr. Tochi said that you have been ordained to be the prophetess in this church, that it is in this church as a prophetess that you are this ordained spiritual practitioner, aka prophetess? Is that what you want to say? I don't even know what church you go to. You want to put me into conflict with your church people. You want your church people to come after me. No, my darling, I can only tell you what the carry shows, what the spirits tell me to tell you. So we need to come to a point where I know we hear what we hear, we listen to what we listen to, and we understand what we understand. But in our spiritual practice, we want to come to a point where we can see reality our reality for what it is and not for what we want it to be, but for what it is so that we can make appropriate adjustments. We need to be able to, in our spiritual journey, be able to see, okay, this is what is at hand. I know I want this other thing out here, but this is what I have right now. So my job now is to figure out how to get from here to here. And not to say to ourselves, oh, I'm already here. I'm suffering, but I'm here. But you're not here. You're here. Okay. So do you want to take a moment and in the comment section let me know what brought you to spirituality if you are living a spiritual life? Just in a few words. Don't put any personally identifying information. Just let me know in a few words. Brought you to spirituality? Why have you considered a spiritual lifestyle? Why do you do spiritual practices? Or if you haven't started already, why are you interested in spirituality? And maybe you don't even fully understand what spirituality is. Maybe you don't understand fully what the spiritual lifestyle is, and that's okay. But from where you are, from whatever level you understand, can you share with me why you have chosen a spiritual lifestyle or why you're interested in spirituality in the comment section? And please, not an essay. Don't put any personal information there, just generally speaking. Why are you interested in spirituality? I'm going to have a piece of fruit. Okay, Starburst says, I don't fully understand, but I have seen Obatala. He woke me up. Okay. So you realized you were sleeping and Obatala woke you up. Do I understand you correctly? Okay, thank you. So you're busy minding your own business. And I mean this in a good way. So we're busy minding your own business and Obatala came along and said, wake up. And like I said, I mean it in a good way. I'm not being facetious or anything. So, I mean, you're just carrying along with your life. You are okay with your life and how you're leading your life. And Obatala just came and said, hey, am I understanding you correctly? Okay. Khadija S says family calling. Okay. So you personally, you were not interested. It's just that your family have been called to spiritual practice. So you figured you might as well. Am I understanding you correctly? Starbucks said, sleeping in my bed, and he stood at the foot of my bed, called my name. Okay. Meek Meek says, because there's so much more to life than books written by men. Okay. So you became curious. The Kiana West says, it just made sense and got results. Started with a strong pull that wouldn't hasn't gone away for a deeper meaning in spiritual realm. Then Ish V says, gave up on organized religions of the current era. Okay. So basically, some of you are saying there just has to be more to life than what you're seeing and what you're experiencing right now. Okay, sweet mommy says searching for answers after patterns of loss, trauma, and disappointment. Okay. Hmm. I want to highlight sweet mommy's answer. There are many of us who come to spirituality because of loss, trauma, disappointment, despair, depression, discouragement. And all these things are happening, and you're going to church, and they keep on saying, believe, believe, have faith, believe, have faith. Like some of the churches I used to go to would say, sow a seed that will shake the gates of heaven, and God will start acting on your behalf. And in that Pentecostal church I used to go to, people would sell their cars, people would sell their land, see, people would sell their property and hand it over to the church just to solve their problems. They would go destitute and still not get a solution. Okay, Khadija S says, I've always been interested and want to continue. Okay. Starburst. Has that happened to you too? You gave up everything, gave a lot of money. Many of us did that. You're so overwhelmed by problems, and you're looking at the people beside you and you're saying, why are these people not having the same kind of problems that I'm having? Why is their life easier than my life? What did I do to deserve this thing that is happening to me? And then the pastor says, oh, if you just give more, just give an offering that will shake the gates of heaven, you will see changes. And you give, and nothing happens. As African American, that knowledge was taken from us and we were taught to turn our backs on our culture. That's correct. That's correct. So, Meek, I suggest you try this resource. Try this resource. Start from here. Okay. When I heard that I have my own personal spiritual crew that can make my life easier and also help me achieve my life destiny, it just clicked for me. That gave me comfort. Okay. Um, one, not even just one. I think um practically everybody in the cohort, that first cohort we just concluded with the spiritual practice intensive, they just said, one person said, I now feel at peace. I feel the circle has closed. I wonder why I didn't do this 20 years earlier. Another person just says, I feel like I have come home. Um, Unfortunately, this is what my parents should have taught me, but they never did. And they were emotional. And there comes a point for some of us, I'm not saying it's for everybody, but there are some of us who, once we start practicing what our ancestors practiced, in other words, we're not practicing what other people's ancestors practiced, we're practicing what our own ancestors practiced. You feel a sense of coming home. You feel a sense of closure. Sometimes you feel angry. I know there was a time I used to feel angry. And I would say, why did my own parents not teach me this? But then I also realized that they couldn't teach me what they themselves did not practice or what they weren't interested in. They weren't interested in it, so they weren't going to teach me what they didn't know about or what they weren't interested in. Okay, they were more interested in one was a Christian, nominal Christian, and the other one was an atheist. They weren't interested in this. And they had incredible problems in their lives, incredible relationship problems, incredible financial problems. And they never connected the dots that we are in this generation and the generations after us. They're not connecting the dots and saying, you know what? I cannot have a whole life if the spiritual is not part of it. The whole life consists of the financial, the physical, the psychological, the intellectual, the emotional, and the spiritual. You have to have all of them together. But you see, our parents and grandparents who were Christianized or Islamicized, they didn't think that far, or they didn't have the skills or the opportunity, I don't know what to call it, to think that far, to think that deep. Okay. My dreams and a deep knowing that it is much more that I needed to learn. Okay, so that's what brought you to spirituality, Ace, too. McManuel, a feeling that something is missing and a desire to know myself. There are some of us who, along the lines of what McManuel and Ace 2 are saying, there are sometimes you are sitting there and you're saying, I know there is more, but who is going to teach me or show me? Remember what I just said about initiation? Remember what I just said about initiation? Who is going to take me by the hand and show me and explain to me? It is one thing to read books, it's one thing to watch videos, it's one thing to listen to me or anybody speak about these things. But then there's another thing where somebody leads you by the hand and says, okay, this is how I did it. Do it this way. Or let's walk together and figure this thing out. Okay. Starbus says, finding out I was in religious dogma and didn't even know then it was making me sick. Yeah, it was the egregore. I've taught classes on egregore. If you want to see my classes on egregore, I think I posted a few short clips on TikTok, and I have full classes on egregore on YT. When we start digging into organized religions, we see that it is a lot more than dogma and doctrine. There's egregores. Okay. Colonizer told our parents if they convert, they'll be treated as equals. They were deceived. Some were coerced into it. If you become Christianized or Islamicized, we will not take you out. We will not unalive you. And in order to preserve their lives, they had to accept. But being stuck with an egregore, that is why some people, depending on what type of religion they're involved with and what egregore they're involved with, there are some people that egregores are so strong and so powerful that if the person starts pulling out of that organized religion or that religious institution, they literally feel like their life force is draining away because they have been using their life force to feed the egregore. And so when you start going into spiritual practices and living a, 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 a practical spiritual life, you start disengaging from the egregore. You do it consciously and you do it powerfully. And then you start doing it with the help of your spirits. Because you see now, once you're working with your spirits, especially your ancestors, the egregore cannot compete. So the same way that you gave permission to the egregore to operate in your life by participating in the rituals of the egregore is the same way that you give permission to your ancestors to disengage you from the tentacles of the egregore of religion. And there are different kinds of egregores out there. And like I said, I've treated these in the classes. So if you're interested in looking that up, you can look it up. And many of us feed into these egregores of victimhood, egregores of martyrdom, egregores of there's just like thousands of this thing. There are even non-religious egregores, political egregores, racial egregores. So when people start thinking differently and pulling themselves away from these things, they literally feel like if it literally starts feeling like a substance, chemical substance withdrawal. They get afraid, they're scared, they're terrified. You see some people saying, "I want to leave church, but I'm so scared. I know I'm supposed to leave this church or I'm supposed to leave this religion, but I'm so scared." Why should it be scary? That lets you know that there's a problem. That lets you know right there that there's a problem. And so what happens is that spirituality usually starts out for some as a poor man's therapy or poor woman's therapy, self-paced therapy. For many of us, embracing the spiritual life meant peace of mind. I'm no longer up all night being afraid this will happen, that will happen. If this doesn't happen, the other will happen. If this doesn't happen, that will happen. And then if this happens, the other one will happen. And if this happens and that happens and the other one will happen, and then I'm doomed. I used to be one of those people that could be up all night worrying and will not get a wink of sleep all night long because I'm worrying about things that could happen. This can happen, that can happen. And one of the things I used to fear a lot was dying. What will happen if I just die now? I used to fear that a lot. And then people say, oh, well, you got to worry about heaven or hell and this and that and whatnot. And then once you start embracing your spirituality and understanding that this life is deeper than that a lot of what we have been told in religion is just fairy tales, then there comes a point when you start speaking to yourself and then you're like, wait a minute, why am I afraid of death? Why? I need a logical one of my childhood friends says, "Oh, I don't want to die because life is so sweet." Okay. And I said to her, "Don't say that life is so sweet. Just say that SCX with your husband is sweet." Okay? No. Yes, that is sweet. Don't be here saying life is sweet. Okay. And she has had she has a wonderful marriage and and stuff. And she was somebody who was trained to be married and she was guided to marry the most practical of her suitors and it worked out for her. Her family guided her to marry the most practical of the suitors who came to her for marriage and it worked out beautifully for her. Okay. So she says to me, "Oh, life is sweet. Life is sweet." I said, "My friend, go and sit down." The bedroom Olympics is sweet. That's what you should say. Your bedroom Olympics is sweet. Don't come here and say life is sweet. Life is sweet. you know. So so you have peace of mind, you know. Um does it mean that I don't have things that worry me? I have things that worry me. I have things that worry me, but they don't keep me up all night long. And I don't have existential dread. That kind of you're sitting there and for no reason your heart is beating, you have palpitations, your heart is pounding, you're sweating, and you're just afraid, and and you're having a panic attack. And you're asking yourself, what just happened? What happened? You can't lay your fingers on what happened, and you're just anxious. You're just anxious. Something is about to happen. Something is about to happen. Something dreadful is about to happen. Something dreadful is about to happen. Those are all symptoms of the egregore. Because the egregore needs you to remain in an emotional state so that it will continue feeding. But your spirits don't feed on you. They don't feed off of you. Your ancestors don't feed on you. They don't feed off of you. And so that's why when we talk about ancestors, remember, was it yesterday or the day before, we were talking about starved ancestors. If you don't feed them, they don't get fed. If you don't feed them, maybe some other descendants are feeding them. But if all the descendants have forgotten them and not feeding them, then they don't get fed. But egregores don't wait to be fed. They will tap, as long as you let them in, they will keep on their energy vampires. And so when you start pulling away, it's like you're having withdrawal symptoms. Some of them will keep you in a state of fear and despair that anytime you're thinking about leaving or going away, your heart will start pounding, you start feeling anxious, and you can't lay your finger exactly on what is making you anxious. And you start retracing your thoughts. What was I thinking of now? I feel so anxious. I feel afraid. I feel claustrophobic. I feel all kinds of phobic. And so the going on your spiritual journey resets you from all of that. And the same way that you invited the Jesus egregore into your life, you can turn around and say, you know what? I'm inviting my ancestors into my life instead. I'm inviting my spirits into my life. I'm inviting my creator, the one who created me, because I have left the one who created me and started following after an egregore. So I am leaving all the egregores because some of us have even more than one egregore we're tapped into, depending on our family circumstances, our upbringing, our peers. Many of us are tapped into more than one egregore. Some of us are tapped into hundreds of egregores feeding off of us. That's why we're tired, we're despaired, we're confused, we're traumatized, we don't know which way we're going. But if we just sit down and say, you know what, that's it, I'm done, I'm through. I'm going into reset. And I'm first going to call, before I call on anything or anybody, I want to call on the creator, the one who created me. I'm calling on my creator, reset me. Separate me from everything and anything that did not come with me when I showed up on this earth. I s- send me back to factory resets, resetting. What's the term for it? I'm asking my creator to set me back to factory resettings. I'm asking you, my creator, to show me who and what am I and who am I here with? Who are the true beings or spirits or whatever I'm supposed to be with? And the first voice you may hear, if you're tightly entangled with an egregore, is, oh yeah, Jesus is the only way, the truth, and the life. And you'll start hearing Bible verses, and you'll say, no, that's not what I'm interested in right now. I want to hear from my Creator, the one who created me. Some people were arguing about the Bible, and one person was saying that the earth is no older than 6,000 years old. And the other person arguing with them said, okay, if you say the earth is 6,000 years old, according to your Bible, from the time that Adam and Eve supposedly roamed the earth, that the earth is only 6,000 years old, how do you account for the dinosaurs that lived on this earth 130 million years ago? And the other person said, that is a demonic deception. Dinosaurs never existed. And the person said, are you saying dinosaurs never existed? And the person said, yes, that's deception. So the person said, so where did they get all those dinosaur bones that are in the museums and all those archaeologists that are seeing all the footprints of dinosaurs, even in the United States, different places? And the person said, it's false. None of it is true. And then the person started going into how going to the moon in 1968 was false. So the other person said, wait, I want to make sure I understand you. You were saying that all those museums around the world that have dinosaur bones and set up these dinosaur bones, that all of that is fake. And the person said, yes, all of that is fake. They don't exist. And the person turned around and said to the person, have you ever seen dinosaur bones or so? And the person says, well, the museums are online. You can see their collection online. And the person said, precisely, that's my point. You've never seen it with your own eyes. And then the other person said, how about we buy tickets and fly to the dinosaur natural museums of science and art or whatever they call them, and we will go see them with her. And the other person says they're all lies. That the heart of man is desperately wicked, and that it is not beyond man to go and secretly create these bones and make these bones and formulate these bones and set it up just to deceive people that dinosaurs existed. The dinosaurs never existed. That if dinosaurs existed, it would have been written in the Bible. So the other person said, but there's a mention of the Leviathan in the Bible that was in the sea monster. And the Christian person said, but there was no mention of dinosaurs. So the other person said, okay, have you heard of Yoruba people? And the person said yes. Says, okay, but there's no mention of the Yoruba people in the Bible. And the Christian person said, well, the Yorubas and the Africans only came into existence after the sons of Jacob were born, the 12 sons of Jacob. That there were no Africans until Jacob had his 12 sons. I said, wait a minute. There were no Africans until Jacob in your Bible had his 12 sons. And the person said yes. So personally, I said, I think I've heard everything I needed to hear. I want to go get me some goat meat pepper soup. Lady Azama says, may that level of delusion never find me. I'm just listening to this thing, and my mind and my spirit was telling me, Dr. Tochi, you need some goat meat pepper soup with a chilled foreign Guinness stout. Be happy. Just be happy. Just be happy. You're telling me the Africans did not exist until after Jacob had his 12 sons. And this is the reason why you have some Africans who swear they're descended from the Israelites, that they're Hebrew, that they're Jewish. And that's why I made that video, the Igbo Israelite myth. That's why I made that video. If you haven't seen it, it's on YouTube. I made that video, the Igbo Israelite myth. And in that video, I even identify other ethnicities around the world that for one reason or the other, even in Japan, there are some people out in Japan claiming that they're descended from the Israelites. There were some early European explorers who came to North America, met the Native Americans here, and started trying to cobble together an explanation as to how the Native Americans they met on their land were actually descendants of one of the tribes of Israel. To tell you the level of delusion. You left your country, you sailed for so many months on the sea. You get to another person's land where they have been living very comfortably. They don't speak your language. You don't speak their language. They know nothing of your religion. You know nothing of their religion. And you sit down there and you're trying to figure out how they descended from the ancient Israelites. So situations like that call for a nice hot bowl of goat meat pepper soup, Guinness stout, chilled Guinness stout. And when you're eating that pepper soup with the Guinness stout, you take your shoes off, you're sitting on the floor because you know you're going to be sweating, you're going to be perspiring, and you put a towel over your shoulder so you can occasionally wipe off the sweat from the pepper soup. Because not all foolishness can be explained. That's the work of the egregore. So, right from childhood, our minds are programmed with this. And instead of programming our mind with the knowledge of our Creator, our true Creator, who does not have gender, our true Creator, who is neither male nor female, our true Creator, who cannot be seen, a true Creator who has already set up the structure of this earth to be fully operational. We choose to bind ourselves in the prison of dogma and fear and religion and things of that nature. So, your ancestors can help with that. Yes, Mrs. Postles, according to them, the bones in the museum were formed by hand. Some people were in the back room somewhere manufacturing those bones. Yeah, that's how that works. All right, folks, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I have a long day tomorrow. Remember, if you would like to book a consultation with me, I'm at drtochi.com or tochi.us. On my website, you also see my courses, my books. These new books that I'm showing you, the African Ancestor Connection Primer, is on my site. It's also on my Patreon. I posted it on TikTok. Information it should be on TikTok, on YouTube, the community page. I've posted it on Facebook and Instagram. You're welcome, Meek Meek. You're welcome, Starbust. I don't know why I keep calling it Starbust. It's actually Starburst. Um, so the books are there. I would recommend the books as a starting point. Don't look at my ebooks as final the final authorities on these things. I want you to look at them as doors that open. You're looking at it and saying, so this exists. Hmm, so that exists. So people do this. People do that. Because once you start expanding your mind, it cannot return to its original dimensions. When you start learning about different spiritualities, different practices, different things, there's this really interesting way that the brain works. Once you start expanding your knowledge of things, it starts reshaping your experience. Probably because I feel I'm about to burst. So it starts changing how you think and how you see things and how you understand things. My advanced students will tell you I am hard on them. And the reason why I'm hard on them is because I want them to be critical thinkers. Yes, pastriness. Yes, critical thinking. I want them to be able to look at this and say, is what Dr. Tochi telling me correct or not? Is it true or not? You're right, Lady Azama. You create new neural pathways. So something that was a big problem to you last week suddenly becomes very solvable this week because you're no longer thinking about that problem the same way you used to think about it last week. You're now thinking about it in a different way this week. And so that problem becomes very solvable. That problem becomes different because the way you're thinking about it is now different. So even if there's nothing else you gain from our chats and our classes and our discourses, you are gaining different ways of thinking about things and thinking about yourself and thinking about your issues and thinking about your problems and thinking about your challenges. Because I can assure you the way I'm thinking now is not the way I used to think 40 years ago when I started my spiritual journey. It's not the same way. And that's why people see me today and they're like, oh, you're so this, you're so disciplined, you're so strict, you're so this, you're so. Because I've had all these years to develop those qualities and to determine what's important and what's not important, what is necessary and what's not necessary, what I should tolerate and what I should not tolerate. I've had all these years. Mind you, I'm more than 40 years old, but I'm just using that as an example. I'm in my 60s. So, one of the greatest tragedies is to have someone become older, but they are unable to become an elder. That's a big tragedy. Not everybody who is older is an elder. And you'll hear me, or you read about that when you get this book, The African Ancestor. This book, this here book. Where's my finger? This here book here. I talk about elders and I talk about elder initiations. Not everybody who is older eventually becomes an elder. There's some people who are just older. They're older, and that's all they have. That's all they have. Older. They're just older, but they're never elders. And to those of you who are not of African heritage or African lineage, I still want you to learn from this because when you, thank you, Lady Azama, thank you. Because when you start looking at alternative cultures, alternative practices, you can start drawing parallels to yours. Lady Azama says, I met an old fool recently. It was so sad, actually. It is. And the most sad part of it is that the person doesn't realize they're a fool. And you'll see them shouting, I'm an older person, I'm an older person. Okay. So even if you're from a different culture, look at all these things, these publications, and like I said, I've made them easy to read. I've put pictures in them and stuff like that. And I want you to look at it and say, okay, where can I draw parallels to my own culture and to my own heritage? What information can I use from here? Ending when I get full information about my own heritage, my own culture, my own lineages. Because you can start from here. The same way that you have a whole bunch of Africans starting out their spiritual journey from Palestinian or Near East or Middle Eastern religions and philosophy. There are a lot of Africans who are into Asian religions and spiritualities and eventually find themselves back to square one, which is their African roots. You can start from anywhere, and then eventually you start getting more curious about yours, and then you start researching that and investigating that and understanding that. Okay. So, I encourage you, get them. They're easy reads. I tried my best to make sure that they're very easy to read, very easy to understand. I use 12th grade language. Okay. Anything that needed to be explained is explained in it. Okay. I will try my best to do a live stream tomorrow because I will be partying heavy and serious tomorrow night. So I will be coming on live earlier. Okay. I've heard people say you have to forget everything and relearn. Of course, we're always relearning. One of the questions I've asked religious people is if you keep on saying there's heaven and hell, heaven and hell, heaven and hell, heaven and hell, and one day just like the American government has been trying to gradually do, you get full and irrefutable evidence that aliens, other life forms exist and are already present on Earth. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? I already believe and know that there are already other life forms living with us and we don't even know it. People you see people on their phone all the time. They're not even looking up to see what's happening in their environments. We're already living here with alien life forms. Credo Mutwa, remember Dr. Credo Mutwa of South Africa? He talked about this for years. He was demonized for it. He was vilified for this. Look him up, Credo Mutwa. Dr. Credo Mutua of South Africa, he's passed on. He's an ancestor now. But he even built a village with images and shapes and figures to represent these things. And people were making fun of him. But here we are. And the US government, last year, and they're trying to gently start putting out information and declassifying information. So what happens to all your holy books and all your concepts of heaven and hell? What's going to happen when you have these life forms from different galaxies, different earths, different planets, and they come and they tell you, well, this is how we live. And then we will start asking them, well, where you come from, is there heaven and hell? And they're like, no, we're so technologically advanced. You guys are so behind. You guys are so backward. In our civilizations, we don't have cancer, we don't have high BP, we don't have diabetes, we don't have this, we don't have that. We have machines that take care of all the diseases. Are you now still going to sit here and talk about heaven and hell? In our societies, we don't have poor and rich people. In our societies, everybody's an accomplished musician, everybody's an accomplished this, everybody speaks multiple languages. We have technology, you can understand anybody. For So are we still going to be talking about heaven and hell? Remember that witchcraft is the language of the poor. You will never hear a rich person saying that they're suffering from witchcraft. Never. I challenge you to show me one person and a verified statement that they have made, a billionaire, multimillionaire that came out and said, I believe in witchcraft, I've been a victim of witchcraft. Witchcraft is a disease of the poor. It is the language of poverty. It is the language of religion. It's the language of poverty. I double dare you. Show me anywhere where Beyonce says she's a victim of witchcraft, or Oprah says she's a victim of witchcraft, or Jeff Bezos says he's a victim of witchcraft, or Elon Musk. I challenge you. Bill Gates, bring them on. I don't know who are the rich people now because it changes. Ariana Grande. Ariana Grande. Yeah, Grande. Okay. So your spirituality starts retraining your brain and starts retraining your language. And there's certain languages you will no longer speak. And there's certain languages you will start speaking. It changes your vocabulary. It even changes who you hang out with. There's certain people you will hang out with, and certain people you'd be like, nah, I can't do this no more. Right? We're thankful to our Creator, our guardian spirits, our ancestors, and our spirit guides for today's forbidden fruit. May it not be wasted in our consciousness. Ashe, Ise, Kamago, the calls of Lesedi, Makwande, Ayubabo, it is done. It is finished, it's complete. Amen. Enyin ho. Ma'at. Thank you all for coming to class. See you all tomorrow. Love you all. Mhm. I'm like looking at this screen and I'm going, how do you do that?